in Child Protective Services, and they won't give them back to their loving families because they're making money.
This is a legal system that you're going into. And if you don't know the rules, you will be chewed up and spit out.
If I could say anything to a mother who just got their children detained, you're in a crisis. Yeah. Life feels like it's over. The most important thing is regaining custody of your children.
The child welfare system at its core is designed to protect children who need protection, okay? And that's key, is who need protection.
So social workers, out of fear, will remove more children rather than only remove those children that truly need to be removed.
It's okay. It's okay.
This isn't someone stole your car. Someone broke into your house. This is someone took your child, your flesh and blood.
It doesn't say on this order that it was not proven. It says untrue. I immediately knew that, okay, well, this ain't over.
Were there signs there? Were there no signs? Did I miss them? Did I catch them? At this point, I honestly don't know.
Families only get a finite amount of time to reunify.
I came into this field to help families, not destroy them.
The difference between the criminal system and the child welfare system is substantial. You have more rights as a criminal than you do as a parent.
Hi everyone, my name is Georgette Truin. I am the co-host for Relatives Fight CPS, and I also work for the law office of Vincent Davis. I have my lovely co-host Cassandra, as usual, and I have our guest today, Elizabeth Clayton. Hi Elizabeth.
Hello, how are y'all?
So I'm going to start the show again with information that might help people who haven't watched my show before. So this is Relatives Fight CPS. So I'm going to share this information. This is called the Newsom the foster care placement with relatives. Okay, this is a new law. It's called the SB 354. And what it does, it says that Senator Nancy Skinner signed this law, which it was in a full effect as of January 1st of 2022 of this year, which removes obstacles in the foster care system that have prevented children from being placed with a relative's caregiver who may have past conviction. Current law can prevent someone from caring for a child even when their past conviction is decades old and they pose no safety risk to the child currently. So this new law ensures that people that have relatives that have past conviction on their record, with this law, the social worker cannot ignore the law. But what's happening, the reason I was late starting the show is because I had somebody on the phone with me telling me that the social worker told them there is no such law in existence. Anyone can search this on Google and they can find it. Okay? And maybe perhaps put it in the face of their court pretender piece of shit attorney and the social worker. Okay? Also, I'm beginning to, reading this every show now to educate people again about the social workers and their motives behind stealing your children. So Child Protective Services, also known as CPS or DCFS, is a protected empire built on kidnapping children and destroying families. Bill Clinton 1997 Act offered cash bonuses to the state for every child they adopt out in foster care. And in order to receive the adoption incentive bonuses, CPS treats kids like merchandise that sells, and they must bring plenty of innocent children so the buyers can choose. Workers work hard to keep the federal money dollar flowing. Each bonus is multiplied by a percentage that the state has managed to exceed baseline adoption numbers. Therefore, the state and local community, which is CPS, work hard to reach their goal to increase their number of adoptions. This program is set by the very top and is run by the Health and Human Resources. This is why victims of CPS don't get the help from their legislator. So basically, our tax dollars is what keeps them this gigantic system floating. And also be aware that 6 out of 10 kids die in foster care. CPS became a protected empire built on just kidnapping children and the separation of family, which is really illegal kidnapping. Poor parents are targeted to lose their kids because they do not have money to hire an attorney. CPS workers commit fraud and withhold evidence in court, and there's no checks and balances. Judge allow them to run the show pretty much in court. The separation of families and the snatching of children is growing as the CPS business grows because the state and local government are accustomed to having these taxpayers' dollars to balance their overgrowing budget. The ones that benefit from all this are the state employees, social workers, children therapists, court appointed attorneys, also known as court pretenders, guardian ad litem, CPS investigators, judges, foster parents, adoptive foster parents, and children's psychiatrists. All of them are looking for children in the state custody to provide job security. All right, Elizabeth.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us a little bit about your story, please.
Okay. My daughter, back in August of 2020, she had called 911 because her significant other that she had been with, she's got 4 kids with him, 2 girls, 2 boys, had started abusing her. She had she walked out and caught him smoking dope out in the garage, so she told him she was calling 911. She went to do that. He proceeded to assault her by busting her lip open, blacking her eye. He cut her with a lawnmower blade, let their pit bull attack her. She went and called, she still got away, called 911. While she was calling 911, he loaded all 4 kids up in a car and left with them before the police got there. Okay, she filed charges against him. She left the home. She went to her friends to stay. She found out where he was. She called the police. The police were supposed to arrest him, but they did not arrest him. They let him keep the kids. They told her that the kids were not in any danger, so they went ahead and left them with him. CPS called her. She explained what happened. Before she knew what to do, they asked her if she would be willing to take a drug test. She said, "Yes, I will. I will take a drug test." She told them that she would test positive for pot and pot only. That's all she tested positive for. That was it. She did not go back to him. She tried to get all 4 of her kids. She told the police when the police came out there, she wanted to go to a shelter. We have a shelter down here where I live at. We had already made arrangements for her and the kids to go to this domestic shelter for women and children. But he took all 4 of her kids. She told the police, "I'm not leaving without my kids. I'm worried about my kids. I'm not going nowhere without my kids." Now, she went to stay somewhere, but she was not going to leave without her kids. CPS came out to talk to him and the kids. They said they couldn't remove the kids because they weren't in any kind of immediate danger, that they were in good health and all this and that. So they left them with him. But the very next day, they came out there and took the kids. They brought 4 constables out there, gave her a piece of paper because she was down there. She was trying to get the kids that day. He gave her 2 kids, but he didn't give her the other 2. And so she was trying to get the other 2, but CPS showed up. Took all 4 of the kids. Now, from what I've learned about CPS and the way that they're supposed to do this is there's a family member standing there asking, "May I please have the kids?" They're not supposed to take off with them kids. They're supposed to let either the family member take the kids with them because there's somebody there. There was a family member there who has in the past taken kids from their relatives that had CPS called on them and wanted to remove them, but they went ahead and let her have them. She asked them, "Can I please have the kids?" And they said no, and took the kids and immediately put them into foster care. I talked to them 4 days after they had them. I asked them if the kids could be placed with me. They said no. And I asked them why that the kids couldn't be placed with me. And they said because, number one, the mother and father hadn't filled out, they had to fill out a paper that says what relatives or friends or whoever they'd like the kids to be placed with. Since they hadn't filled one out, they said they couldn't be placed anywhere. Well, finally, in October, they contacted me and asked me if I would like to have my grandbabies placed with me. I said yes. No, I'm sorry. That was in September. They never contacted me again. I contacted them several times by text and by calling. They never contacted me again. I contacted them finally and told them, look, I got plans and I'm going out of town to see my relatives. This was when the pandemic was going on. Pandemic was just now where you could start traveling. So I wanted to go see my family member. They contacted me while I was up there. I was in Indiana. I live in Texas. I went to Indiana to see my family members, and they contacted me wanting me to go do a drug test. It didn't even say CPS. It didn't say nothing. It just said, you need to be at such and such location to do your drug test. And I'm like, what drug test? I mean, I didn't even reckon. So I called them, and that's what it was about. So we had to postpone it for a week. We postponed it. I got home. They did my home study. I went for my drug test. I was supposed to do a hair follicle and a UA. So I went up there and I did my urine test, and the lady goes, thank you. And I was like, I'm supposed to do a hair follicle. And she said, no, ma'am. I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, no. I said, yes. And she goes, here's your paperwork. And all it said was urine test only. That's what it said, urine test only. So, and I got a copy of it. I got done. I contacted CPS. The caseworker would not answer like she always doesn't. So I texted her and I told her, I said, just did my drug test, only urine test, no hair follicle. My next response I get from her is, I'm going on vacation and my supervisor knows what's going on. If you have any questions, call her. I said, okay. A week went by, I hadn't heard anything, contacted them. They said they hadn't heard anything. 2 weeks went by. The supervisor's asking me, why did I deny doing the hair follicle? And I said, I didn't deny doing the hair follicle. She said, yes, you did. And I said, no, I didn't. I sent her my paperwork and she's seen it. She looked into it for about 4 days, called back, said it was their fault. They took another 2 weeks to give me another piece of paper to do a hair follicle. By the time it was all said and done, it got to be December. Okay. They told me in December, they denied me my grandbabies because their mother was staying with me. Okay. We told them she had somewhere to go. If they were going to be placed with me, she had a place to go to. We had the address, person they could talk to, everything. They still denied me. They said, nope, we're not going to talk to you no more about it. Finally, they told her she could have her kids if she got her own place. So she was out. We live in a town of 19,000 people. 19,000 people. We do not have a lot of resources here where we live at. She had to end up finding her own resources because CPS told her that they could not give her resources because she moved out of their county, which was BS. And I knew it was BS. And I told her she needed to tell them. And they would tell her something. She may argue with them one time. Then if they'd say no, that's it. You know what I'm saying? She believed what they were saying. And I kept telling her on the 4th month, these people come in there and told her that my grandbabies looked at the foster parents and said, will you adopt us? Now we're talking about a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old who's never been talked about before about adoption. That's never been brought, no reason, you know what I'm saying? And you're going to tell me that one day my grandbabies are sitting there having a conversation saying, hey, you want to adopt us? No, they're so attached to their mother. It is unreal. It is hard for me to get them to come spend the night with me. If their mom can't come, They're not coming. I get one of them. I can talk one of them to come in because they're so attached to their mom. And I knew that they were not sitting there talking about adopting us. Okay. The, the 2-year-old, she had an 8-month-old and a 1-year-old, 2-year-old at the time. There were the two boys, 9 months old and 2-year-old. These two boys, we found out when we went to court to do determination of parental rights. These two boys were placed into two foster homes in the beginning. That one was abusing the boys. The second one they placed them in was already under investigation for severe extreme abuse. And they placed the two boys there. My daughter would go to her visits. She would drive 3 hours in one day, once a week, to see her kids one way. 3 hours, pay for her own gas, everything. She would go in there, and the little baby, the 9-month-old, would have knots on his head, or bruised egg, and she would take a picture of it, and she would ask the people there at CPS, because she had to do it at their office, what happened to my child? Well, we don't know. We're going to have to look into that. And she would get some story the following week about maybe the older brother pushed the other brother down, or they fell at daycare or something like that. Okay, maybe one time, but we're talking about 7 different occasions that my daughter has taken pictures of knots on this child's head, bruises, black eye. He's got one eye where it's black coming down his eye right here. This is out of the 2 first foster homes. The 3rd foster home that they put him into, and at the time that I did another drug test for them to do another home study, this was in September now. We're already into 2021, because every time that they tried to tell her, if you'll do this, we'll let your kids come home, and she would try to do it, they would deny her. Oh, well, now we decided you can't do it this way. They first wanted her to be supervised, have her kids return with her when she lived with somebody that could supervise her. Okay, hey, here I am, but they didn't want to do that. They said no. Okay, well, so we're into the 4th month, and they're already talking about adopting.
Into the 4th month
of the kids being in CPS custody. Yes, the 4th
month, and they're talking about adoption.
They're already talking about taking her parental rights away. Now, let me tell you something. I told my daughter in the beginning that I had a funny feeling. I mean, I've never had to deal with this before. Never have. But I've had a funny feeling from the beginning, because just certain things that were said, certain things, the way they were being shady about things, because my daughter gave them permission to talk to me about her attorney, everybody. You talk to my mom, because I'm one that you're not going to pull, you're not going to pull it over me. I'm going to question you on every little thing, especially with my grandbabies. And it got to the point where they wouldn't talk to me no more, because I would prove them wrong at everything. They wanted to say, when they took her in there, the 4th month, they were already talking about adopting these kids out. September, when the boys were taken to their 3rd foster home, I went to go do another drug test to have them placed with me. At the time that I was doing this drug test, these boys were being placed in the 3rd foster home. The parents were being told that these boys were being placed there to be adopted. Okay, I'm doing a drug test.
How old are the boys again?
The boys are now 2 and 4. Now, this started in 2020, and this is when the pandemic was first started out there. They weren't doing court.
Oh, it started in 2020. Okay.
Right. Okay. And they weren't doing court or anything like that. But now they're holding this against her. Okay.
But let me go back, sweetheart. If the case started in 2020, that's not 4 months into the case.
No, 4 months into the case. At the beginning of 2021, January of 2021, the caseworker was already talking to the foster parents about adopting the children. That was 4 months into her case. August of 2020 is when it started. January 2021 is when this all first started, about them talking about adopting the kids out. These are the 2 girls. first. It started with. Okay. And then there was this other signs, like the caseworkers started falsifying paperwork, like, the paperwork they turn in to the court that says how your visit went that week with your kids. Okay.
Yes, it's a monitoring report.
Right. Okay. And every time it would start out with her first drug test that she ever did for CPS, which it stated that she tested positive, and she admitted that she would for marijuana, but has never tested positive again. Okay.
What state is this in, Elizabeth? What state is this in?
Texas. In January, after January, her next report to the court come back saying that she tested positive on her first drug test for methamphetamine, amphetamine, and marijuana. Okay. I told my daughter, I said, wait a minute. Now, why are they putting this? You didn't. Your first test was marijuana. It has been said this through this whole thing so far. Now, all of a sudden, she's coming back saying this. She's doing something here. So she contacted her, and she said, oh, I made a mistake. I copied and pasted. Well, you don't be copying and pasting something, not something like this. That's too important. That's going to the court. That's not something that they're just, oh, oops, we can fix that. No, this is what she turned into the court. Okay. So she said she would correct it. Her next report said the same thing. 4 reports said that right in a row. And she contacted her attorney. Her attorney tells her, this is her famous thing. Wait till we go to court. Why do you want to wait till we go to court? We want to this settled now. These people are already talking about adopting these kids out in January. Now they're falsifying paperwork to the court. I'm already starting, just 2 things. I'm already seeing a pattern.
If they have, Elizabeth, this case has been going on since 2020. This is 2022. So the falsification of the documents has been going on from day one. So this is not being used to you or your daughter.
No, and we've been trying to bring it to her. Every time we would bring things to her attorney's attention, her attorney would say, wait till we go to court. Why should we wait till we go to court? When we go to court, that's like the end. When you go to court, that from the way I've understood the way it goes, when you go to the end of your court, you're either having your parental rights terminated or you're going to get your kids back, one or the other. And you're already talking about we're going to have to defend herself when we go into court, and we're only 4 months into her case. She left. She has done everything. She had left her abuser. It took her 2 months after the kids were taken to finally get enough guts to say, that's it. I mean, he had her so...
Elizabeth, stop you for a second. How long has he been abusing her?
She's not really going to tell me the truth. I mean, she's not, because she's just... But she said it had been going on for a good about 6 months. I think it's been going on more than that, because he gets angry too quickly. He got angry. I know the signs because I was abused by my first husband back when I was younger. And I would never let anybody do that to me again. And I could see him, just the way he'd blow up, the way he talked to his mom or his grandma.
So when you saw that, Elizabeth, did you not educate your daughter?
Yes, ma'am. I sure did.
Okay.
I sure did. But I know, and I understand where she was coming from. I mean, I can't say how long. I would always ask her, does he talk to you like that? Does he talk to these kids like that? She would say no to me. But I think, I never seen bruises on her. I never seen bruises on the kids. If anything, he was mostly doing verbal, and that's not good neither. I understand that, and I do understand that. If anything, it was mostly verbal that I would hear. I never actually seen it, but she did finally leave, and she's been gone from him for 15 months. She has never talked to him. She's filed every assault charge. He's got 6 assault charges from just
How many kids does she have with this man, Elizabeth?
4. She's got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old now.
Okay, so for the 4 kids that she had with this man and all those years, no one has ever tried to protect these kids from him?
No, I live 3 hours. I live 3 hours away from them, and he would not allow them to come down. He very seldom would allow them to come down here to where we live out to see him. I mean, if I had to see her, I would either have to go to her home, or I would have to pay for the gas for them to come here and go back home. If he was to bring them down here, you know what I'm saying? And then he would show up real late with them, real late with them, to where we would only get to visit with her maybe an hour. Then they'd go to a motel, come back maybe for 2 hours, and then go back to their home.
So let me tell you how CPS evaluated this whole process with your daughter's case. That you failed to protect also.
That's
that
what
you failed to protect, right? You didn't tell me that part, but that's what I assume.
They didn't say that. They didn't say that at all. What they were saying was, they're saying that about her, not about me, but they're saying that about.
No, I understand that, but the reason probably they didn't want to face the kids with you because in their mind they probably thought, or somebody must have told them that you knew about it. You knew about the abuse.
Their biggest thing with me was they I don't know why, but they seem to think that as soon as the kids are placed with either me or her, that we're going to allow the children and her to go back to him. Okay. She's not been around him for 15 months. She's not talked to him. She's not had any kind of, she's changed her phone number 4 times because every time she changed it, he would pay to get it. You know how you could pay to get somebody's number? He would do that. But finally she's changed it to where it's got a different state and everything. So,
but you know why they probably did do that? Like why they think that you would do that is because you're failing to protect yourself. Because if you felt that way about him and her, you should have intervened a long time ago without CPS.
This is his famous words to her and to me, because I would hear him arguing with her in the background. I will take these kids and you will never see them again. I will call my grandmother in California who's got all kinds of money, and she will get me the best attorney, and I will make sure your parents and you will never see your kids. I will hide so far. And he ain't got nothing. I wouldn't be scared of that. I would tell him, come on, bring it on. But I'm just a grandparent. His number one thing that he would have done to me, and it would have happened here in Texas, I don't know about there, but here in Texas, he would have called 911 because he already said it, and I would be arrested for trying to take my grandkids. Now, and I would have.
If you do it legally, he can't do that.
Yes. Well, I tried checking into that after this started, and you know what I'm told? Grandparents here in Texas have no grandparents' rights. If I cannot prove to the court here that I have a strong bond with my grandchildren, my grandchildren just cannot, be without me. You have to prove here in Texas a real strong bond between a grandparent and a child for you to be able to go in there and just say, hey, I want to take this. And it would have caused, I know exactly what would happen to her, but she did do what she needed to do afterwards. I mean, she got out of there. She's not been back with him. She's got her a great job, a great job. She maintained her job for what now? Going on 15 months, a steady job. She's got her own home, a home on 35 acres. She's got her own vehicle. She's paid for everything herself. She would go see her kids every week, took them brand new clothes every week, gave them, gift cards, whatever they wanted, because she doesn't get to see them but once a week, that's all she gets to see them. She was never given the opportunity to show them that she could protect them, that she could do what she needed to do, with her kids. She was always under a microscope at the office with the kids. There was times, I got to see my grandbabies one time, and I got to visit with them one time, and I could not believe this. When CPS interviewed me, they asked me if I would be in agreement with the non-corporate punishment for children. That meant no spanking or smacking of any kind. And they really emphasized on that. No smacking and no whipping of any kind. I said, yes, ma'am, I can do that. They asked me a couple of things what I would do. So I gave them examples. When I'm up there visiting with them this one day, I watched the CPS caseworker smack my grandson on his hand. And I sat there and I said, I thought that there was no smacking or whipping of any kind. I mean, if you're going to try to enforce, even though it was a smack on the hand, you're telling me I can't do it. Why are you doing it? That just, and they brought that up. They did bring that up. But she said that she.
So wait. Let's go back, Elizabeth. You said the social worker smacked the child on the hand?
Yes, ma'am. She sure did. My grandbaby, the youngest one.
But did they accuse you of spanking the child or smacking the child?
No. They asked me, though, my point to them was they specifically said to me, no smacking and no whipping of any kind. But your CPS caseworker is going to sit right here in front of me and smack my grandson on the hand because he reached up there. She had a burrito sitting on a piece of paper on her laptop kind of thing, and he reached up there to grab it. He's just at that time he was not even 2 years old yet. Okay, and she went and smacked him on the hand, and it was a pop. I mean, she popped it, and I'm like, wait a minute, how can you want to enforce that if you can't enforce it yourself? If you're going to do it yourself, they took her rights away. We're appealing. She's appealing it because her attorney only gave 2 pieces of evidence in her court case. 2 pieces of evidence. That was the pictures of the kids being abused that they had. The knots, the bruises on them from when they have been in their custody. Pictures of my daughter in their visits with the children. She's got, over 2,500 pictures of nothing but hugs, smiles, and kisses, and no sad pictures, no upset pictures, just joyful pictures showing you how close they are, and all of them are like that. They still took her parental rights away, even though she's done everything. She's got her job. Like I said, she's got her job. We got security cameras up on her home where she's at. We put security cameras up there. She's got locks on the gates that go around the property. She's
so
moved.
Let me just explain something to you, Elizabeth, and the rest of the people, whoever is watching. When you have a CPS case, okay, like yours, for example, like your daughter's, and nothing has been done since the case started, don't expect reunification with the parent. No, because the younger the child is, the more adoptable the child is. And I explain it to you guys all the time. So when the child is young, they already know what they're going to do with this child the minute they enter the door to take that child.
Yep.
They know what they're going to do with that child. So most likely the adoptive foster home that they placed the child in didn't want to take the child, right? They refused, or something happened along the line where that's why the children was put in another foster home, another adoptive foster home. Mm-hmm. But their goal, CPS's goal, is to get these children adopted.
Right. And I kept trying.
Your daughter can do all the classes, she can get her life together, she can have a roof over her head, all that. It doesn't matter because they already know. That's why it's very important. People think once the state has custody of the children, it's going to be reunification. That's bullshit. It's bullshit. There is no such thing.
She kept trying to say something to her attorney. I said something. She said something to CPS about, hey, y'all trying to adopt my kids out. My kids are not going to be adopted out. My kids are going to be coming home. And what else are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to, when you're telling your own attorney, hey, look, this is what's going on. You can even prove it by, there's other things that happened I got her discovery package. You ought to see the emails from the foster parents to CPS that I read in her discovery package. They were long time ago. We're talking about these kids being adopted. And that's unbelievable. And how they treat you in court, how they run that court, like you said. I sat there. I wasn't allowed in the courtroom until I testified. Then I got to sit in the courtroom. When I sat in there and I watched and seen how it went, it was just like it playing out as you guys have said. I watched everything. I watched, just like you said, it's not the judge that runs that courtroom. It's going to be the state that runs that courtroom. And let me tell you something. I know they're supposed to make you look like a bad person and that, because like you said, they're trying to get the kids taken from you, all this and that. But to disrespect you, to sit there and have everybody in the courtroom laughing, at smirking, and then the caseworkers sitting there. The caseworkers sat there with the foster parents. And it was after I got to testify. I was sitting over here. They were sitting over here. They had a caseworker sitting in front of them from CPS. The foster parent mother sitting behind. And that woman looked at the CPS caseworker, looked at them and said, "Don't worry. You're going to get the kids. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. You got them. You got them." And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. Before it's even went to the jury, you're sitting here telling these parents that they're going to get these kids not to worry about it. And, we brought this up to her attorney's attention, that this woman said that. How are you going to sit there and say that? Because y'all knew that this is what you guys were coming in here intending to do. Right. They kept telling her all along. Though, they were going to not take her kids. They were going to give her kids back to her. But then you would hear every stuff about adoption, that the kids are talking to the foster parents about adopting them. They're calling them mom and dad, that they don't want to go home, that they're scared to go home.
Was her attorney a court-appointed attorney?
My daughter's?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
There's your answer. That's why they did that, because
that's why. And that's why. And I told my daughter, I said, look, from everything I've read, when you have a court-appointed attorney, you're taking what you get for one thing. They're not going to work your case. You basically got to work your case for them. Basically, work the case for them. And let me tell you, I told my daughter to ask her attorney, and she did. And I even asked her attorney to do ask for a bonding session between her and her kids. And do you know that was never asked nor granted? I don't know if it was ever asked to the court, but it was never. My daughter asked 3 times for that. We even sent emails and a letter in regards to that. I even presented one day. I was listening to a video that Mr. Davis was talking about, and I'm trying to remember the case name that became a law, where if you can prove to the court that you have a strong bond with your children, and you can prove to it that they cannot proceed with termination of the parental rights at that time, they have to stop. Well,
you have to do a bonding study.
That the bonding,
right? So you have to do a bonding study. This is a separate thing. You have to pay. You have to pay for this on your own. So it's called the bonding study, to show that you have bond with these kids. Then you take that to the court, and then whatever the attorney that you have should take that to the court and prove to the court that you do have a bond with these children.
Right. And we told that to our attorney we would pay for it. I mean, I don't know if we were, but we told her we would pay for it. But we can't go get the kids and take them. They have to make.
That should have been done in 2020.
Right. Yes. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The stuff that we were doing. She started her classes when she was supposed to. I started listening to Mr. Davis. And I came across a bunch of things. So I started telling her, because they're not going to listen to me. I'm not the mom. I'm the grandma. So I would tell her what to ask her attorney, what to say about the bonding, about proving the bonding. We proved the bonding. I mean, several times can you prove the bonding. But her attorney.
How did you prove the bonding, honey? Did you do a bonding study?
Well, what I was saying was, like, with her and her kids together, how her kids and her were bonding. I'm not talking about using that for court. What I'm saying is, you could see that where you could ask for a bonding. I don't know if they call it a bonding session here. I think it's called a bonding session here for you to be with to go to a doctor, whatever they call them, to see if you and your children have got a strong bond. But you have to show the attorney has to be able to show the judge that there's a reason to order that. So what I'm saying, though, is you could see the bond between them to be able to go to the judge to say, we would like to, have an order for them to go to wherever they have to go to have this session done, because, they have to make the appointment with the kids and her. We would pay for it, but she would never get with the CPS or whoever the attorney has to get with to get the to get the order to be able to go to the bonding session with the kids.
Yeah,
she would never do that for her. I would even, I mean, she would ask her to do things. They would say, my daughter should have known that he was on drugs, and she goes, well, how would I know that? And they said, well, you should know the signs. And she goes, now how am I going to know the signs? They tried to tell her because she grew up around it. Well, what makes you think she grew up around it? I never did drugs around my kids when they were grown up or when they were little. I never did anything like that around. So what makes my daughter is going to know? Well, we thought somebody in your family was in. No. So what makes you think that she should know then? If you're going to use that as an excuse to keep her kids away, then it was she didn't protect them. The case wasn't first brought against her. It wasn't first done with her. It was done against the father. The CPS case did not. It did not. The report was not on her. It was on him. They did not put her on the case.
But she stayed with him. See, the thing about it is, when your woman is being abused and she stays with the father, and then the report of abuse, when the police is involved, that report goes on the woman's name, even if she reported to the police.
Right.
But the way they look at it is, if he's been abusing for 4 years, the amount of time, or 5 years, the amount of time she had all 4 kids with him, why didn't she leave then? Unless he showed abuse later on in the relationship. But usually an abuser would show up abuse in a year or 2 years into the relationship. But she's been on longer than that.
Right. But she said, she swears up and down that he didn't start. I guess it all started when his grandma found out she was dying, and because he was really close to her. And I guess that's when he started going out. He started cheating on her. He started going out, leaving her at home, all this and that. The signs were there, but she didn't want to believe it. She wanted to keep her family together, know. And then he said that there towards the end, that's when he started.
She thought that would help. She probably thought there was a remedy for him to maybe.
Yes,
and that's
ma'am.
a lot of women,
especially
if they're dealing with like a sociopathic person or a narcissistic person. They kind of brainwash them to believe that they're gonna get better. They tell them, don't leave me, I love you, and then they start a fight again, and this and that, and then I love you, and don't leave me, I can't be without you, and then the woman believes them.
And that's exactly what he would do to her. I'll kill myself if you leave me. I won't be able to. Yes, and and she's a very, very loving, sweet person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, usually they target sweet women,
right? And you got to think too. He had her away from all of her family. Me and her dad, brother and sister. That's all she has.
So basically, he's a narcissist. If he alienated her from her own family, then he wants to control her, mold her, whatever. And that's why she was making excuses for his actions. Like, mom, he just lost his dad or whatever, his mom. Kind of like she's making excuses. She's enabling him to continue on.
You're exactly right.
If he stood up for herself, he would destroy her. Why? Because narcissist wants women, like their new victims, their new wives, whatever, to support them, right? To enable them, to make sure that that they back them up. They make excuses for their actions. Oh, he was tired from work, or he works really hard. That's why he behaves like this. Or he yelled at the kids because he's exhausted, or he scares the kids because he's a military hunky monkey dad, or whatever. They make excuses for them. Yeah.
But you don't see. But you don't see that, and it takes some women that are in that situation a little bit longer. But once they find out that they can do it and make it, and that's what was going on.
But you've seen signs, Elizabeth. You have seen signs because you've been in an abusive relationship before. So that's why I said, what did you tell your daughter? Did you give her advice?
Well, I told her one thing. I said, you need to call 911. And it's like she said, and he did. I mean, I'd sit there and tell her, man, I wouldn't care. I'd call 911 on his ass anyway.
No, it's not 911. It's more like get the hell out, go to family. Wait, let me finish, because 911 will call CPS. So what she should have done is leave the house, take her children, and do it in family law legally and file a restraining order on his sorry ass. That's what should have been done.
Well, just like he did when she called 911. He took off with the kids. There was nowhere for her. If she was to call anybody, he would leave with them kids before they got. It takes me 3 hours just to get there, and he listens to her phone calls. He literally listens to her phone calls and what she says, and she was getting to the point where she was leaving him, and he knew it, and because she tried leaving him a couple of times before this. She did try leaving him a couple of times before this. Matter of fact, she came down here. Her dad went and got her. She came down here. I ended up getting sick, and my oldest daughter had to take me to the hospital. I had an ulcer, I guess. I didn't know I had one, but it exploded, and they had to do blood transfusion and stuff. So I went to the hospital. She was at her sister's with her kids asleep in her sister's house, but her sister left the door unlocked, and he showed up. My daughter's ex showed up, got the kids. They were asleep, got the kids, put the two oldest ones in the truck, went back in and told my daughter, get in the truck. I got the kids in the if you want, I'm going to take off with these two. So she got in the truck with him and went back home with him. Because he had already put two kids in the car. There was nobody there with her. My oldest daughter was with me. She was there. So she got in the vehicle and went back with him. Then that's when he attacked her again, and that's when she finally said, that's it. She called 911 and did what he said he was going to do. He took off with the kids, and he was not.
After all these instances, like, you guys didn't see that he was abusive? You keep on saying that you tried to prevent it, but you didn't. You didn't try to prevent it.
That was the first time she literally told us that he had hit her. That's the first time that I can't see if
he came to the house, the first time you said they were already together at the house, and now you're saying that it was he went to that house and walked into the house and
she had her dad
attacked her.
She had her dad come and get her. When she finally was fixing at the end there, where she was finally saying enough's enough, she had her dad come get her. Her dad went and got her, brought her back down here to where we live at. She had went to stay with her sister went to stay at her sister's house for the night. I had gotten sick. My husband had left for work. He works out of town. They had already left to go back to work. My oldest daughter took me to the hospital. So my daughter was still at her home, my oldest daughter's home, asleep with her kids. He showed up and went into my oldest daughter's home, grabbed the two youngest kids, the two boys, and put them in his truck, come back in the home, woke my daughter up and told her that if she wanted to see the boys, because he had the two boys out there, she needed to get in the truck with the other two kids that was in there with her, or he was going to take off with the two boys. And she would be there with the two girls. Well, she wasn't going to let him go with the two boys. So her and the two girls got in the truck, went back home. When she got back home there, I think it was the very next day, that's when he really assaulted her by hitting her with the lawn blade for the lawnmower, letting the dog attack her, busting her nose and that. That's when she called 911. And had them come out, but before they got there, he took off with the 4 kids. That was the last time she seen the kids.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, baby girl, but we have to bring this show to an end because I do have a meeting to go to, and God bless you and God be with you and your family.
They need to get their own attorneys, and they need to really pay attention to what they're doing, because they're not going to give these kids back. They're going to find any way and every way.
Everywhere and any way. Exactly.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will.
You're absolutely right. All right. God bless you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless all of you guys. And Cassandra, thank you again for joining me, sweetheart. Love you, girl. And I will talk to you later. Okay. All right.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.